Hello and welcome back to the Just George Show. I'm your host George and in today's episode we're talking about 100 years of the BBC. Now in today's episode I wanted to go through all the significant events of the BBC and the ones that, I look back on and I think, wow, that's when that started. Incredible. Let's start in 1922. The BBC Radio is launched. Obviously radio is a big part of everyone's lives still, even to today. In 1953, the coronation of the late Queen Elizabeth II was aired. In 1956, we had the first Eurovision Song Contest. Now, personally, I've never really watched Eurovision all the way through. I've watched obviously many performances of like the Great British contestant. Obviously, I've seen obviously results in the past, but I've never really watched a contest from the start to the end. In 1958, Blue Peter aired. Now, I've definitely watched that. Blue Peter was definitely something I used to watch as a kid. In 1960, the BBC Television Centre opens, and it's still there as of recording, and I hope it's there for the whole of time. In 1963, Doctor Who first airs on the 23rd of November 1963. Now, this day obviously lives in history because it's the same day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. So when they went to air the first episode of Doctor Who, little history lesson here for you all, they had to stop the broadcast and then they had to redo the broadcast at a later date because the news of the president's assassination just swept the whole world. It was global. In 1964, Top of the Pops and Match of the Day both airs for the first time. Obviously, both big parts of everyone's lives. Obviously, Match of the Day is still going to this day. Obviously, Top of the Pops I think ended in 2003. You might be able to correct me there in the comments, but both big pillars of the BBC, in my opinion. Obviously, 1966, BBC gives coverage of the World Cup. Obviously, England winning the World Cup in 1966. 1967, BBC Two is the first colour channel in Europe. So a big part of history that the first channel to have colour television. Very impressive. In 1969, BBC yet again has the coverage of this time the Apollo 11 moon landing. Obviously, when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon for the first time. 22 million people tuned in to watch that. I don't know if that's globally or just in the UK. I'd have to double check that. But it's 22 million people. Is a lot of people watching anything. In 1980, the first episode, or should I say the first broadcast of Children in Need happened all the way back in 1980. I think they raised about £1 million in the first, the first event of that. In 1981, we had Diana and Charles's wedding. And we also had in 1981, a big part of my life, is the first episode of Only Fools and Horses. Now, in my opinion, Only Fools and Horses is the best, get my words out, the best British sitcom comedy of all time. Fantastic characters, amazing programme. Like Doctor Who and this, I will definitely be doing future episodes on both them programmes. Fantastic programmes. I must point out, Diana and Charles's wedding had a global viewing of 750 million people. Incredible. In 1985, EastEnders debuts. Now, obviously, EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, all of them soaps. Obviously, I've seen odd episodes, but I can't say I'm a fan and I watch every episode, day in, day out. But obviously, they're massive parts of British culture. In 1991, Comic Relief airs for the first time. Now, obviously, I've watched obviously the odd years of the Comic Relief, but I do have like good memories of like doing charity events at schools and for Comic Relief. In 1997, Teletubbies airs for the first time. I can't believe I'm mentioning Teletubbies 4 episodes into my show, but yeah, Teletubbies first aired in 1997. In 2001, the UK Office, the first episode of that was broadcasted on the BBC. Now, I really like Ricky Gervais. I think he's a great comedian, and the UK Office is no exception. It's a great programme. I highly recommend it if no one's watched the UK Office. I watched the US Office just in case anyone's like, oh, that's better than that one. The US office is probably really good as well. I haven't watched it personally myself, but I know the UK office is good. In 2004, Strictly Come Dancing airs for the first time, and obviously it's still going today. That's kind of how I got the inspiration to do this episode. I was watching Strictly Result Show on Sunday, and they showed the BBC 100 years, and I think they're doing this weekend coming an episode, a show to do all about the theme tunes of different programs throughout the years, like including Doctor Who, Blue Peter, etc. In 2007, BBC iPlayer launches for the first time. We use that today on our phones, on our televisions, our consoles like PlayStation, for example. Forgot to mention, 2005, The Apprentice airs for the first time. Now I watch that every year religiously. I love that program. The Apprentice is fantastic. To me, like The Apprentice, I remember watching that and thinking, I want to be one of them. All suited and booted. Trying to become the best in their field, whatever. And obviously, they the program is just synonymous for people who have all the gear, but sometimes they have no idea. But obviously, throughout the years, The Apprentice has been a really good program to watch, in my opinion. And finally, I know this is 10 years ago, but 2012 Olympics in London was obviously the full coverage of that. Was aired on television. Now, obviously, there's loads of programs that have happened throughout the years that I haven't mentioned, but they're ones that I haven't watched, so I haven't really got much to say about them, like Luther, Line of Duty, just to name a couple. Obviously, you've had things like the Great British Bake Off that I've never watched, but yeah, I just thought I would run through some of the significant events over the 100 years, and I'm assuming BBC will be doing their own events and programs going back through all of these significant events, and I look forward to watching that. But yeah, like I say, Doctor Who and Only Fools and Horses will definitely be in future episodes talking about them. I've got so much to talk about with Doctor Who. Obviously, it aired in 1963, and then obviously came back in 2005 with the reboot series, and yeah, I've watched it ever since then. So it's been a big part of my childhood, and even now, 17 years on since the reboot. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode. Bit of a shorter episode, but I thought I'd just summarise 100 years of the BBC. So thank you for everyone who's watched this video. If you liked it, like the video. Comment below what your favourite programmes were of BBC, and yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.